As Free Bird's opening notes started to play, Johnny Van Zant stood on stage with the lights behind him fading. He put his palm on the microphone, closed his eyes, and began singing the exact words his brother Ronnie had sung almost 50 years before. The audience became hushed behind him. Some raised their hands, while others wept, not because they regretted anything, but because they sensed a deeper goodbye that never really ended. When you are the one bearing the burden of that loss, how can you continue in the footsteps of a legend? When every lyric carries an unnamed sadness, how do you raise your voice on melodies that previously belonged to a sibling who passed away too young? For Johnny Van Zant, celebrity wasn't the solution in applause or streaming numbers. The reason for this was that he continued to stand, sing, and play the music as though Ronnie were still present. The Van Zant family, of which Johnny is the youngest, has a strong Southern rock heritage. Out of the three brothers, Ronnie was the pioneer who made Lynyrd Skynyrd a household name in the United States throughout the 1970s. However, after Ronnie was killed in an aircraft crash in 1977, Johnny, who was only 17 at the time, went through a protracted period of grieving before finally stepping up to carry on the tradition as a testament to his family and the American South. Officially, Johnny has been Lynyrd Skynyrd's lead vocalist since 1987. He never attempted to be Ronnie, and no one ever asked him to be. Rather, he provided a respectful continuation that carried Skynyrd's legacy forward. Amid chaos, through farewell performances that strangely continued, still standing there as the crowd bid Free Bird farewell again. There is no substitute for Johnny Van Zant. Early in life, he is a guardian of the flame. On February 27, 1960, Johnny Roy Van Zant was born in Jacksonville, Florida, a working-class city in the state's northeast, where the sounds of Southern music mingled with sandy dirt roads and truck engines to produce something distinctly distinctive. Music was nothing new to the Van Zant family. It was the cadence of daily meals, the upbringing they received from their parents, and the way the brothers developed their ability to pay attention to the outside world. Born to a stern father, Lacey Van Zant, a Pearl Harbor veteran who went on to drive interstate trucks after the war, he was the youngest of three sons. Every trip behind the wheel was a musical adventure as well. As his sons grew older and developed their own tastes, the radio in his taxi played rock and roll, ancient gospel harmonies, and melancholy country ballads. Through affection and their shared Christian faith, Johnny's mother Marion served as the family's emotional fulcrum. Johnny was raised in that home with a strong love of music, military discipline, and Southern pride. Johnny was raised in the shadow of two well-known brothers. The founder and spirit of Lynyrd Skynyrd, Ronnie Van Zant, was the oldest and a born leader. The middle brother, Donnie Van Zant, was just as feisty and helped the band .38 Special achieve widespread popularity in the late 1970s. Smaller, quieter, and more reserved, Johnny would frequently observe everything in silence from the perimeter of the rehearsal space. He didn't initially anticipate becoming a singer. Johnny's true passion was drumming. From kitchen counters to tin cans, he would spend hours every day tapping out rhythms on everything that could produce music. But music was in his blood, regardless of his position. Johnny formed his own band as a teenager, not for fame but just to immerse himself in the music. Similar to his brothers. Then disaster hit. Ronnie Van Zant was sitting in the front row of the plane carrying Lynyrd Skynyrd when it crashed into the Mississippi woods on October 20, 1977, when Johnny was just 17 years old. Ronnie and two other band members were instantly killed. In Johnny's mind, the afternoon was calm. The phone rang as he and his father were outside pushing weeds. His entire musical universe altered forever after a brief call and a scream. Just a 17-year-old child standing between the ruins of legend and sorrow, no more Big Brother, no more Skynyrd. Instead, Johnny quietly started getting ready for what he didn't yet know would become his life's work, ensuring that his brother's soul would continue to sing through his own voice. Early career Johnny Van Zant did not immediately embark on a career as a professional musician following the shock of 1977. Living more slowly in the early 1980s, he worked various jobs around Jacksonville and occasionally performed with pals at small pubs. Nobody, not even Johnny, thought he would ever take over the limelight that Ronnie had left. However, music continued to flow through him, not loud or forceful, like a bloodline you can't refuse, but as something that just had to go on. By the end of 1979, Johnny had established the Johnny Van Zant Band, a distinct band that was neither attempting to emulate Ronnie's approach or take inspiration from the Lynyrd Skynyrd tradition. He didn't decide to follow in the footsteps of another renowned frontman. Rather, he decided to be a Southern storyteller with a voice full of calm introspection and honesty. The first album, No More Dirty Deals, came out in 1980. Critics acknowledged it as a song with emotional depth, the sound of someone who has experienced actual grief, even though it didn't have a significant impact on the charts. Johnny seemed to be singing to himself when he sang songs like Only the Strong Survive and Stand Your Ground, defying memories, expectations, and the shadow of a family legend. He kept putting out albums throughout the ensuing 5 years. Second Round, 1981. Van Zant, 1985, and The Last of the Wild Ones, 1982. Although his music at the time had the basic Southern rock core, it was more introspective, had less bravado than Skynyrd, and had more personal undertones. Particularly, and most importantly, the silent sorrow of a younger brother who would never again be able to call out to his brother. Johnny's voice was full of emotion, but it wasn't yet piercing or authoritative. Didn't have to yell for them to pay attention. Through every chorus, the Van Zant spirit was audible. Commercial success was still unattainable, though. By the middle of the 1880s, Johnny had to face the harsh reality and put the band on hold in order to take care of his expanding family. He may never succeed in his single career. But then, from the precise spot where his past had been buried, an unexpected gateway opened. The remaining members of Lynyrd Skynyrd made the decision to get back together in 1987, over 10 years after the crash, to pay their respects to Ronnie Van Zant and the other people who perished in it. They required a voice that could convey the spirit in addition to being able to strike notes. And the only person who could maintain that flame was Johnny, the man who had once sworn never to replace his brother. Johnny wasn't a replica of Ronnie when he took the stage in that pivotal moment. He continued to live his life as a brother, singing for the departed and starting a new chapter in a career he had never pursued. Now, however, he realized he was created to carry on that tradition. Professional achievement. Johnny Van Zant realized this was more than just a concert as he took the stage for the 1987 Lynyrd Skynyrd reunion tour. It was a goodbye that had never been said correctly. The band came back 10 years after the horrific plane disaster in 1977, not to replace what had been lost but to preserve it. The youngest brother, Johnny, who had previously stood silently at the rehearsal room's edge, was now taking center stage, bearing both his own sorrow and the hopes of millions of admirers. There was a great deal of pressure. Ronnie used to be the owner of every song he sang. From Free Bird to Tuesday's Gone, from Simple Man to That Smell. The public was split. He could never compete with his sibling, according to some. The reunion itself was viewed by others as an affront to the memory. Johnny didn't argue, though. He simply continued an incomplete story while singing in his own voice, without dramatizing or mimicking. Then, a noteworthy event occurred. After a moment of silence, the crowd began to sing. What started out as a nostalgic gesture gradually evolved into a custom where people learned to forgive, remember, and move on. Johnny took over as Skynyrd's primary voice after that. He had the guts to not strive to be Ronnie, not because he was Ronnie's brother. He guided Lynyrd Skynyrd through difficult times during the following 30 years. Albums, including God and Guns, 2009, The Last Rebel, 1993, and Last of a Dying Breed, 2012. Although these albums didn't garner as much attention as they did during their prime, they helped to preserve Southern rock's essence. Pain, Pride, and Freedom. Most notably, Brickyard Road, 1990, a song he wrote for himself in remembrance of Ronnie, peaked at number 1. Say hello to Mom and Dad, tell them I'm fine, I'll be home one day, goes the agonizing chorus of a rock song on the charts. Together with Skynyrd, Johnny and his brother Donnie formed Van Zant, a band that combined country and Southern rock. They released albums including Brother to Brother, 1998, and Get Right with the Man, 2005, the latter of which featured the single Help Somebody that peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot Country chart. Johnny didn't use accolades or statistics to gauge his achievement. He continued to stand between two generations, singing old melodies with a fresh heart and transforming individual sorrow into group healing as time went on. In a world where rock is dying, Johnny Van Zant keeps the music alive via modesty rather than show. Personal life: Johnny Van Zant is not a showy rock star when the stage lights go out and the touring life comes to an end. He is a straightforward man who has never wanted to leave Jacksonville, Florida, where he was born, reared, and currently resides with his wife and kids. As Lynyrd Skynyrd's primary voice actor for over 30 years, he has seldom ever been involved in scandals, never made news for controversy, and never pursued tabloid drama. He made the decision and made a silent vow to himself that his celebrity would never overshadow his true nature. Johnny married at an early age and has never disclosed personal information about his family. He has found solace in his wife, an unheralded woman who grounds him after lengthy car trips. He has a close relationship with his youngest daughter, Taylor Van Zant, out of their 3 daughters. In life as well as in music. Anyone who has watched Johnny perform in the last few years is aware of this. He frequently turns around and gives a little gesture toward the backstage area at the conclusion of Simple Man, where Taylor occasionally waits quietly. However, that article was short-lived. After learning that Taylor had been afflicted with a rare brain illness, Johnny abruptly declared in September 2024 that all Lynyrd Skynyrd tour dates would be cancelled. If left untreated, cavernoma, a vascular abnormality, can cause seizures, strokes, or even death. For a parent who had previously lost his brother in a tragic plane crash, the episode was traumatic even though subsequent tests revealed the tumor was benign and not malignant. For the first time, Johnny relaxed on social media. "I've lost too many people in my life," he wrote. "I can't take another one this time. Please pray for my daughter." Thousands of messages poured in from fans across America. Once again, Johnny realized, music may connect us, but truth brings us closer. This wasn't the first time he had to fight battles outside of music. In 2006, Johnny was rushed to the hospital for an emergency appendectomy while on tour, forcing the band to cancel several shows. In 2011, he was hospitalized again for a serious infection following surgery, a case of cellulitis that required weekly 4 antibiotics. Yet through it all, Johnny never complained, never stopped. His private life was never loud, but it speaks volumes about the man behind the stage lights: a devoted father, a quiet husband who shields his family, and a younger brother who has never stopped mourning Ronnie, not as a legend, as a loved one who never came home. Legacy and impact: when people mention the name Johnny Van Zant, they often think of him as the replacement, the one who stepped into the place Ronnie Van Zant left behind. But to stop there is to miss the point. Johnny didn't replace, he preserved. And it was that quiet perseverance, never showy, never trying to wear the mantle of legend, that built a legacy all his own. Understated, but undeniable. For over 3 decades holding the mic for Lynyrd Skynyrd, Johnny proved that while a band can lose its soul, it doesn't have to lose its identity. He never tried to be Ronnie, never mimicked his posture, his phrasing, or his voice. Instead, he brought to Skynyrd a new sincerity, a raw southern tone, and the steady calm of someone who grew up under the shadow of tragedy. But never let it consume him. Not only did he help Skynyrd survive and carry on, Johnny expanded the reach of southern rock to a new generation. Alongside his brother Donnie, he created the Van Zant Project, releasing country rock albums like Brother to Brother, 1998, and Get Right with the Man, 2005. The song Help Somebody not only charted high in the country world, but carried a distinctly Van Zant message. Be kind, help others, even when no one is watching. In Johnny, fans saw an artist who didn't chase trends, but chose the long road, the grounded path. He never became the face of a movement, nor was he hailed by the media like many of his peers. But to the fans of Southern rock, Johnny was the last flamebearer, a symbol of loyalty to roots, to honest music, and to memories that never fade. His legacy isn't measured by album sales or trophies on a shelf. It lives in the way. Each time he sings Free Bird or Simple Man, Johnny doesn't just perform, he brings listeners back to a time, to a person, to a Southern soul. And in that moment, even if only for a few minutes, the music makes what was lost live again. Current life. In 2025, Johnny Van Zant turns 66, a milestone at which many artists choose to retire. But for Johnny, rest has never been an option. He's still on stage, still holding the mic, still singing Simple Man or Free Bird, as if each song is a lifeline, connecting him to the past, to a lost brother, to a once broken band, and to the millions of fans who still can't let go of the memories. After the major upheaval in 2024, when his youngest daughter Taylor Van Zant was diagnosed with cavernoma, Johnny cancelled all scheduled tours to care for his family. Though the tumor turned out to be non-cancerous, facing the possibility of losing his child left him with a fresh wound, quiet and persistent. On social media, Johnny couldn't hide his vulnerability, writing, "I've lost too many people. I can't lose my daughter too." For first time in his career, he allowed himself to be publicly fragile. But he didn't stay away for long. At the end of 2024, Johnny returned to the stage with a landmark tour, celebrating 50 years of Lynyrd Skynyrd. Among those performances, the night at the Ryman Auditorium, America's mother church of country music, was recorded and released mid-2025 as the album celebrating 50 years. Live at the Ryman. It was also the final performance to feature founding member Gary Rossington, who passed away not long afterward. For Johnny, that night wasn't just a tribute, it was a farewell ritual. In an April 2025 interview, Johnny shared, "Lynyrd Skynyrd remains active through 2025, embarking on a summer-long tour across the US and Europe, including shows in the UK, the Netherlands, and Germany in July." Fans don't just come for the music. They come because they know. Every time Johnny walks on stage, Skynyrd lives again, not in image, but in spirit. Offstage, Johnny maintains a simple life. He lives with his wife in Jacksonville, not far from the childhood home where Ronnie wrote his first songs. When not touring, he wakes early, tends to a small garden, shops at local markets, and chats with neighbors like any Southern uncle you've known your whole life. He once said in a podcast, "I don't need a mansion or a sports car. I need my guitar, the old house, and dinner with my family." He has no personal social media, no appearances at celebrity parties. Johnny chooses to live quietly. Just as he's walked his entire career, without noise, without show, but never absent. And in that humility, Johnny Van Zant continues to do what few can, keep a symbol alive through every breath, every lyric, and every time he sings, for those no longer here to sing themselves. Johnny Van Zant never lived in Ronnie's shadow. He lived to keep that shadow from disappearing. For over 30 years, he never tried to replace a fallen legend, nor did he seek the spotlight. Instead, he simply stepped up, gently took the mic, and sang the songs millions once heard from his brother as a ritual, as a promise, and as a way to keep memory from fading into silence. He didn't follow the path of most rock stars. No scandals, no loud proclamations, no living for the biggest stages or the brightest lights. Johnny endured through voice alone, sometimes raspy with emotion, sometimes breaking from sorrow. Every word he sang wasn't just music, it was a journey. From a 17-year-old boy who lost his brother in a crash, to a father shaken by his daughter's illness, and now to an aging artist still standing firm on the same patch of earth where it all began, Jacksonville, Florida. No Grammy. No solo induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But perhaps Johnny never needed those things. His legacy isn't measured in silver statues or gold plaques, but in something harder to name. The way someone freezes when they hear Free Bird. The way a tear falls in the dark during Simple Man. The way he bows his head in silence. And everyone knows it's a farewell to a brother who never came home. Johnny Van Zant is the last living heartbeat of a generation. A generation of Southern rock that grew up on pain, faith, and the need to tell their story. And he's still telling it. Not with words, but with music. No declarations, but people remember. No self-promotion, but every time he appears they know a piece of Lynyrd Skynyrd's soul is still here. Have you ever heard a song that felt like the singer was speaking your pain? If you've ever gone still while listening to Simple Man or Free Bird, share that moment. Because maybe, just maybe, Johnny is singing for you too. For the hurt you never said out loud, for the losses you never really let go of. And when he sings, you might realize something was never lost at all. It was music and those who sing it with their whole heart.